Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 63. 63. And April patch, we're going to go over it. A little underwhelming, in my opinion. A little bit, I guess I expected a little bit more from the rebalance. I know it said only 6 classes were going to get an update, but I don't know. For me, I thought that it would maybe possibly give us a little bit more something sneaky, like a one liner. I know last year in the past they had like a cap increase to armor. They had the crit rate changes kind of as like a hidden thing that wasn't announced. But then I looked back on it in the past couple years. They did have some rebalances that only had less than 10 classes in it. They rarely ever do a full wide quote unquote rebalance other than V skills during anniversary. Um, so hopefully that obviously the classes that did get rebalanced are happy. They are going to be much better. The main thing I want to talk about in this podcast, though, because the patch was a little bit underwhelming, was to do my first class ranking video of 2024. About a quarter of the way into the year, and I thought it was time. Was hoping to do it after this rebalance, but I don't think this changes all too much, even without knowing the exact numbers and buffs that they got. And I wanted to do a little bit differently, not a tiers ranking, but more of just ranking classes. So there's going to be a class 40 and a number 1. So we'll get into that, but I'm going to quickly breeze into these patch notes. Job rebalancing, mechanics. One of the things that mechanics I thought were already pretty good as it was. So this is kind of nice for them. But like, it's always nice to see cooldowns and reactivation cooldowns get changed. Like reactivation decreased, skill delays decreased, lines counts are obviously nice. Buff durations, these are changing. This is consistent with what we've been seeing. And actually, in game, this is not 60 seconds. That's like 20 seconds. A little unfortunate, but yeah, always gotta can't 100% confirm the patch notes. You always gotta look at the actual in game to make sure these numbers line up or don't line up. Demon Avengers, their main skills got the buff, right? Max attack counts are nice. Max attack counts, so just more attacks, more lines. These are free, huge for 1,000 swords, demonic frenzy. So they're gonna get good line buffs. The issue with Demon Avengers, you'll see it in my class tiers ranks, doesn't bump them up that too much because they just don't have great burst. And when I talk about how I rank my classes, burst is a big differentiator for why some classes may have the same line counts over 180 seconds that you see, but how they get their lines, how easy it is for them to get their lines, and what kind of burst they have is a huge factor for me. I'll talk about it and why later after this. Bowmaster, don't know what this is. This is just brutal for Bowmasters. Maybe Inhumane speed is better than you expect, but we'll see. That is underwhelming. Like, they don't need more final damage. They need lines. Marksman arguably got the biggest buff. They got a little bit of a rework altogether. Avoid those delays. They get duration increases, always huge. Line count, pretty big, 3 lines. It's not bad actually. Again, speed decrease is nice. Shades, knuckle. Congrats to you guys. I mean, Shades were in a pretty tough spot when Paladins are like my Paladins beating them in content when he has 10 mil more cap than I do. So Shades are going to be nutty. Right now they say it's about 17 to 18 possibly K lines in 3 minutes. That's like 1.5 to 2K more lines. That's what 12% increase in damage just straight up. Yeah, they're going to be insane. Like without a doubt, This is pretty nice, and it's just off of one skill too. Fox Spirits, just increasing speed, duration, increasing activation, lines. That's just all you need. Like those are big dubs for Shades. Fire Poison Mages I thought were already very good, and they're just gonna get even better. They add a little description here, but yeah, more dot damage. Kinesis again, they've continued to get rebalanced. Seen some sneaky good Kinesis out there. They're just gonna get more. Be stronger. That's nice. Battle Mages I thought were pretty good as well. Um, Big winners. These 8 classes, big winners in my opinion. Losers, some classes. I actually think Bowmaster might be a loser. We'll see about that. That's kind of a fake rebalance. Kaisers, I thought. Cadenas, I thought could use a rebalance. Xenons. Kana, even. Blasters, maybe. Yeah, those are some of the classes that I thought could have used something more. But, man, like, there's 40 classes, 40 plus maybe classes, and 8 of them got a rebalance. We'll see about that. 20%, the bottom 20% ish. Interesting to see what they do moving forward. A new map, nothing crazy. There are some nice UI changes, quality of life changes that are really nice. Salon shop, nothing crazy. Of course, they have to have some. I was confused by these, like Onyx Jaguar, Kaiser Final Form. Well, lucky them. That's cool. Pass rewards, pretty good value. I think it was $30 for Exalt Reduction, 30%. Some of these scrolls, not bad. Buffs, we'll take it. Huge. Yeah, events, nothing crazy. I really enjoy this event. I find it very fun. Probably the only one that finds it fun. Yeah, as a reward box, I saw this. This is obviously just by playing the game, but come on, what we're still doing we're still doing these boss rewards. Come on, like this isn't 2021 anymore. Come on, you could do better than that. Events, nice. Premium restoration scroll, sure. Of course, a little bit of a cash back per se by spending. Damage skin was pretty nice actually. I like this Royal Guard choice. I mean, feels a hammer. Would have taken it, but yeah, hopefully I'll buy that. This spring profile was actually very nice as well. It's tempting for sure. I already saw people with it. It looks really sick. And they have a nice little profile preview as well, which I really liked. And then this premium box, not bad. Not bad. This accessory enhancement for the Mythic, there was no percentage. So maybe it's just depending on what item you do, but probably like 10%. VMO, improvements, quality of life. Long overdue, cooking. Yeah, everyone's happy. Woohoo. Ticket multipliers automatically. Sweet. We'll take it. Mailbox changes. We'll take it. Linked UI is a little confusing at first. Like you cannot click on these skills over here to actually see what they are. You have to go into this window to click on them. But for the most part, cool. Other improvements, stackable to 99. We like that. That was a big one. And there was a little bit of a backlash. The fact that you could initially delete or trash your symbols in your bags when you go to sell, like your potions and equipment and stuff. People were getting all pissed off. I mean, there was about three pop-ups that came out, guys. Like, yeah, I get that. Why did they do it in the first place? But come on, like, you had your chances, multiple chances. If you sold it, that was kind of on you. They made it as easy as possible. Yeah, they changed this UI, sure. Star catch. Yeah. Yep. This is what I talk about symbol stacking right here. This is what I was talking about. The filter was on. Sale filter. It's in the patch notes, guys. Come on. Like, yeah, they turned it off afterwards, but you guys can't just be blaming it Nexon for everything. Like, and I'll be the first to admit, like, if Nexon's at fault, I'll blame them. But come on, like, you're the ones that are going through the pop-up windows. Nothing crazy over here. Bug fixes. What came up? They said some stuff were a bug. Damien or Lucid had a fix where you can do damage and it won't affect, let's see, alter. Lucid? Yeah, here it is. When taking damage, it would occasionally be reset when taking damage. So now it's not going to reset. It's just going to interrupt it, and then you'll go back to it. So quality of life makes it a little easier. That's a cool little change. All this other stuff, pretty elementary. Pretty cool. I mean, I don't know what. Nothing too impactful. But yeah, patch notes. Not much there. If you're one of those classes that got rebalance, sick. You guys enjoy your buffs. Test it out. See what the damage is like. Hype for you guys. But we'll be right back, and we'll get into the class rankings. First one of 2024. All right, I'm back. And I quickly wanted to talk about rebalancing one more time because I think, if people are complaining or wondering what rebalances look like in the last 2 years, I was sent this spreadsheet, and this is just, and I appreciate whoever sent this to me. I forgot who it was. I mentioned it before, but they basically compiled this data tracking what classes got rebalanced, what month, etc., etc. And so the last one came in October, and 8 classes got rebalanced. So same as this past year, right? And before that, 25 classes back in May, and March 22. And the year before that, it was quite a bit actually. 4 rebalances. January 10 again, 34. So basically all the classes, and then 13. And keep in mind that between June and January is V skills anniversary, so that's not incorporated in this. Like Blaster's rework or fix from last patch wasn't included in this, so there are, just keep that in mind. But this is strictly rebalances per se, and so do what you want with this data, right? And the way I look at it is, I'm not sure what they're going to do next, whether a new one is going to come in Q1 again or in Q2, because based on the past couple of years, they've had one in Q1 and Q2 kind of earlier on, and then one at the end of the year pretty consistently. And so I'm curious what kind of trend what direction they're going to go this year. But the main thing that I believe is happening, and what I got to give Nexon a lot of credit, right? I got to give them a lot of kudos to them, because it feels like the game is more balanced than ever, right? And I know lower tier, it's easy for me to say because my class is at the top, but the lower tier classes are getting rebalanced. I think one of the biggest issues in the past was that everyone was getting rebalanced, right? In 2022, 30 classes were getting rebalanced. So the bottom tier classes they were getting buffed, but in comparison to other classes, they weren't, right? Everyone was just getting a big bump, but they were still staying at the bottom tier. And last year, they started off doing that, 20 classes, 22, 25, and that, the top tier classes weren't getting anything. Look at Pathfinder, not Pathfinder, Sias, Dawnwarders, Nightwalkers, Mercedes, Dual Blades, Dark Knights, Shadowers, didn't really get anything, right? And again, obviously, end of last year, 8 classes. So they're going in the direction where only the classes that really need it, that are struggling, are getting rebalanced. And I think that's nice. That's what, if as a paladin, I would have loved to rebalance, but I know we don't need it. Right? Other classes need it more. They need to catch up. And when I looked at when I did my class rankings, it's actually very, very challenging to create a top 10 to do which was the worst classes, kind of deciding in the middle which classes were better than others. And I think that's a good thing, right? I talked to so many people about where they think classes are ranked, whether it's archers or pirates or mages, and which ones are the best and the worst. And I got conflicting answers across the board. And that's a good thing, right? That means that Nexon is kind of doing their job, right? That there's discussion, there's some sort of argument for a class being this good or this bad, or when the bottom asks for the bottom worst 5 classes, people are giving me different answers, and there's discussions and reasons and whys. And I think in 2024 right now, the game is as balanced as it's ever been, and I think it started for once they started to only rebalance those lower tier classes that really needed it, that they started to bring them up, raise the floor, and kind of keep the just to raise the floor and allow them to catch up a bit. So there's obviously still discrepancies and things that make some classes better than others, but we'll get into it right after this. All right, class rankings, first one of 2024. And I want to first talk about what I think went into this ranking. I wanted to create parameters, first of all, because the list changes depending on if you're talking about free to play, you're talking about 20 mil cap, 25 mil cap, 30 mil cap, which is what I do, and then the max funding, the max 50 mil cap, full 7 set absol. That's a different tier. The rankings actually change quite a bit, in my opinion, depending on what parameters you set, which again is a good thing. But I first want to talk about DPS, right? And when you go through DPS, the first thing you think about is lines, right? If you haven't seen it, there's there's records of line counts for each class over 3 minutes. And a lot of them are pretty similar. 15, 16, 17, there's obviously higher levels to it. But for the most part, it's jumbled up. Line counts are pretty consistent across the board. But you'll still universally believe that some classes are better than others, right? Just a tier above, right? For example, if you were to compare archers, right? You think like a Pathfinder versus a Wind Archer, right? I think majority of people say a Pathfinder is better, slightly, but I think Wind Archers actually have more lines. If you want to talk about, say, like a hero versus a Kaiser, or a DK versus a Kaiser, both in the 15k range of lines, but no one's saying a Kaiser is better, right? And it's because the main reason for this is, one, how they get their damage, right? Is the damage coming from multiple active skills that you have to micromanage and to min max to get this line count? Is it just a one button preset that as long as you're attacking, you're going to get all your lines that you expect to, right? Are you getting place down skills? Do you have to have the boss stand still? Like Night Lords are a great example. Their line count is based off of so many things, right? For them to do their barrage and get the max lines, they have to stand on top of the boss, literally right on top. If they're 1 character or 2 characters away, they're not going to get full damage. If the boss moves and they place down their shuriken, it's going to miss, you're losing burst, right? Place down skills or how you do your damage is a big factor that you can't just see on the line counts, right? And the last one that is pretty common, like I mentioned, is 1 button presets versus combos and a lot of active skills, is mobile versus emulator. Geminis talked about it before, how Blaze Wizards actually have like a 1.5 to 2k difference in lines, mobile versus emulator. How is that even possible, right? But that's the challenges that people face, right? That's the things that people don't notice just by looking at the raw data, right? There's layers to it. And these are things that I factored into my class rankings. How is your damage? How easy is it? How consistent is it to do? On top of what your toolkit is to actually do the damage, right? Mobility, survivability, um, iframes, things like that. Again, all matter. And so we'll get into the parameters right here. Endgame bossing is what I'm focused on. And this is hard Damien and this is Lucid. So the parameters that I set is level 240, 50k attack, 30 mil cap, and 210k HP. And levels, obviously for Lucid, for symbols, for are mainly for Lucid. 50k attack is kind of the baseline where either you have a level 40, you have your symbols leveled up, you have a level 40 weapon with the mythic secondary, or a level 50 weapon with a legendary secondary weapon, pretty decent flames. 50k is kind of a good number to gauge off of. 30 mil cap, that's 4 set Absol, full level 50s. You could have, a little bit higher cap with higher weapon, your max damage cap on your weapon. Or you could have maybe 8200 Legion. You could have a face mask or eye patch. That is sort of the average. And then obviously 210k HP, just the culmination of having Absols and skills and certain level of gear, right? HP does matter. And I just didn't want it to play a factor, as too big of a factor in this ranking, right? So that is the parameters that I set. And like I mentioned at the beginning, this matters, right? Some classes are going to get a bump up or a bump down because of these parameters. Some classes that, like for example, a Paladin or Mercedes, the peak lines, they're not capping all those lines with 50k attack at 30 mil cap, right? They need 60 plus to cap all their lines. So they may get docked for that. While other classes that cap super easily with less attack, have high skill percent, don't have clones, we're going to get a bump up. And the way that I approach this, again, it's very challenging. So I tried to make it as controlled as possible. But at the end of the day, the way I thought about this was, if I were to start a team with all these parameters, they have all the same stats, which one am I taking? 1v1. Cadena versus an Adele. Which one do I want? Which one do I trust to do more DPS? Which one do I trust to do to stay alive? Which one can do it easier? Which one has maybe something that they can bring to the table, right? I'm a big component of it. If you can do more than just DPS, you have a party buff, you have a support skill, you provide some sort of party healing or defense or bubbles, or obviously res and shell and synchro. That's going to bump you up for sure, because you are doing more. I want someone that can help out the team in more ways than just DPS, right? And that for me is huge, right? So you'll see with the rankings, I'm going to go from just the bottom up, right? I'm going to go from the bottom up here, and we'll just go through the bottom. This is what I call the bottom 6. The worst class is, in my opinion, Cadena, then Xenon, Blaster, AB, Kaiser, Kana. Basically 6 classes that I thought deserved a rebalance this round, but didn't get it. So they're going to get a bump down. I just think they're underwhelming. Cadenas don't bring anything to the table. They're not very good DPS. They don't have much survivability in their toolkit. Xenons, same, right? They require you kind of to stand still in the boss to maximize your damage. Blasters got fixed, but it's not the greatest. And again, that difference between mobile and emulator is a big factor for me, and which is why blasters are a step down kind of in this ranking. Angelic Busters, nothing special. Kaisers, worst warrior in my opinion. They just don't provide much. And then Kanas, they do have support skills, but I just don't like the way they do their DPS. It relies, their mobility is not great either, and they don't have much survivability. Definitely, these are the classes that I think could use a some sort of rework. Like, this is the next batch, in my opinion. All right, the next. Now this is in order, okay? So this is how I would rank them. I got Bowmasters, and again, if you think that this is wrong, let me know. Right? I think my biggest issue with these classes, I don't know too much about them. There's not much representation, and so I'll be honest, I'm familiar with it. I kind of have going off the generic, my general understanding of how the classes are played, and I think that these classes are like, they're pretty good. Like, I would say, like, again, these classes can perform well, right? This is, I know they're the lowest of the low, but there are a lot of great classes. There are 40 classes, and I'm gonna tell you, there are probably, I would say that 35 of them are in a good spot. Like, I would say some people think Corsairs and Cannoneers are rank higher. Some say they're very good. Demon Avengers just got a rebalance, could be pretty good. Adels, Arons, I don't think they're bad classes at all, and I would argue that with this cap, they could carry a hold their own and finish, first page, even if things fall right in like a Hard Damien or Lucid. They're actually that good. Like, it's just, there's just a lot of great classes out there, in my opinion. And these classes, like, you could nitpick all you want. 21 through 33, interchangeable, in my opinion. Even, you could even say 15 through 20 to 30, interchangeable. There's a lot of great arguments. Aron's, like, I have one in my guild. He's probably going to watch this and say, they have good healing. They have good survivability. They have good mobility. They do good damage. Adele's, same thing, right? But I just, like, they're just not as good as the other classes, right? And that's just not a knock on them. Just says more about this, like, just the depth of the classes and how good they are. So that was 40 through 31, I think. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Math hard. I don't think that's 31 through 40 at all. What the? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, we're going to have to fix that later on. But, so, Mechanic is, I think, pretty good. Like, I've heard good things about Mechanic. I was a little bit shocked at how that they got a rebalance. Marksman, I thought they were real bad. They were arguably one of the worst classes in the game, and I heard this buff is pretty good. My issue with these classes right here, and this is kind of might be the first shocker, is I got Night Lord down here. Night Lord, and then Ice Lightning Mages. And these 5, like, they're kind of all paired together because there's just something missing. Like, Ice Lightning Mages, we have the best one in the world, and I would say at higher caps they perform very, very well, but there's just nothing special about them. And as a mage, they have no survivability, 0. 210k HP is probably very hard for them to get. They don't have any base HP as well, percent HP, so obviously Magikarp doesn't do anything in these endgame bosses, so they are really squishy. They can't do anything on their own. Same as Night Lords. They have probably some of the, as far as thieves wise, they don't have much iframes. Like I said, their damage is very reliant on a lot of things. You can lose lines very easily if one thing goes wrong or bad placement. Kinesis, I've heard good things. Marksman, I've heard good things, or I'm expecting good things. And Mechanics, I've heard good things. But they just don't have as much in their toolkit. And again, these classes don't provide anything. I think Mechanics provide a final damage buff, but other than that, these classes are strictly DPS. Just them. If they're not doing DPS, they're providing no value to the team, right? Which just makes it very, very hard for them to, I guess, if everything's level, everything's even, it's just hard for me to pick these classes over some of the next ones, right? Like Blaze Wizards. I think their line count is very, very high, but that mobile to emulator thing is, it just hurts. It just hurts me because I play mobile. They do have a final damage buff though that I think is very nice. Dual blades, like I think these thieves are just getting, they're just getting pushed down, right? They haven't gotten rebalanced in a while, and pretty crazy. Maybe this is over ambitious of me to put a BAM in front of a dual blade and a Nightwalker. Maybe a little disrespectful. I think some would argue. Let me know. Is that a little disrespectful to these thieves? Nightwalkers, dual blades. I just think after V3, dual blades have not got a rebalance, and they've just are getting caught. People are passing them, and with this current stats, 30k max, 30 mil max damage cap, and 50k physical attack, both these classes, Nightwalkers and dual blades, won't be capping all their lines. And their lines aren't great to begin with. Nightwalkers have more lines. They have more in their toolkit as far as survivability, but they need to be, if they're not attacking, if there for some reason there's an interference like Lucid as an immunity phase, or you're doing orbs for a little bit, or you can't attack Damien, you might lose your attack speed buff, which again, reduce lines. So there are factors into their gameplay to get their damage out, to maximize it. Dual blades just aren't going to be capping all their lines with these stats, and it's a factor, right? These classes don't have anything else to provide besides DPS. The other thing Nightwalkers do have is they have self-healing, which dual blades do not, which is why I put them above. Battle mages just have more. Their damage seems pretty good. Their burst seems pretty good. I like their teleports as well. It's very clean and responsive. And they have their auras for DPS, for survivability. And I think they're pretty good. Like having them, and this is like, they're ranked in the 20s, right? So it's not like I'm saying they're a top 10 class or anything like that, but I give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they are in a good spot. And I honestly would take them with the same cap, the same stats over all of those classes I have behind them. I would. Fire poison mages, I think, are insane damage dealers. Just insane. The dot mechanic is a factor. It's very, very good. There's just less room for error, right? The one thing that I don't like about fire poison mages is they are squishy. Explorer mages in general, very squishy. Not a fan of that. Not a fan. So even though their damage may be better than some of these other classes, like if there's one class that's gonna die, it's a fire poison mage. Just saying. All right, so I fixed up the columns, and there's obviously now there's 41 classes. Just leaving it in there, math, whatever, it's fine. But so Oran's went up here. Fire poison mages is ranked 20. So let's see. Make sure my math is correct after I just checked this. 41, 40, 36, 35, 34, 33, 32, 31, 30, 3, 6, 7, 10. Okay. 20. Rank 20. All right. We are on track. This is the top. So Fire Poison Mage is number 20. Pretty good spot. Pretty crazy to see those three thieves in my bottom half. But you're going to see some of these classes. Again, this is my opinion. And this is my ranking. And like I said, a lot of these classes are interchangeable. I went through this a lot. I put way too much time and effort into this. And I still am going to look back on it and not like it at all. So I got Arc here. The lines are just too hard to ignore. I've seen some Arcs do insane damage, especially in the right setting. Like if they are just allowed to do crazy DPS, their lines are just hard to ignore. Wild Hunters, I got them above, and I got Wind Archers. So I put these two archers back to back. Again, flip them. The reason I took Wind Archers, I think, is because their mobility is better. I really like Wind Walk. I really like their V3 bubble shell. So like they can just tank more stuff. They can tank orbs. They can do alter duty and survive. Wild Hunters have no survivability. Wind Archers can do alters. They are mobile. They can stay down if they wanted to. They have their 30-second iframe. Again, they just have more in the toolkit. I think their burst is pretty good. Their consistent damage is good. And I like how they get their damage, right? It's just straight through Song of Heaven, passive lines there. Wild Hunters have to have place down skills and things like that. I think it's a no-brainer for me that Wind Archers, the more I thought about it, their toolkit's just better. The way they do damage is more consistent, and they have better survivability and mobility. Evans, DKs, heroes. Evans are really good. And it's crazy to think that they are here. But I don't know. I think Evans, I played with an Evan, and man, like, if they get orb duty and those things are ticking, they are dying. They are dying. Now, maybe there are some things that Evans can do with their iframe where they can jump on their dragon and, be immune to stuff, but they just have ethereal form. And when I try to compare it to other classes, like, their damage is really good. They still have an Evan buff, which is a party buff, one of the best party buffs. So that is a factor. They have good burst, insane burst. Their damage is up there. Their damage is better than, in my opinion, DKs, maybe on par with heroes. But the reason I got DKs and heroes, heroes damage is better, right? They're going to cap all these lines with ease, and their damage is just better than DKs. DKs have better survivability though. Final pack, they have the passive healings. I have no argument if you think DKs are the better choice. They just can survive better. But what I do like about heroes is they have that short iframe. They're World Reaver. Obviously, they both have impenetrable skin. And so, like, World Reaver can actually be very beneficial to help reposition the boss. I like those short cooldowns as a part of the toolkit. I like having that. That's a big advantage. Then I got the Archers back to back. And I was thinking about flipping Mercedes and Pathfinders. I really was in this parameter. And that's why the parameters matter, right? If it's end game, Mercedes, arguably the best DPS in the game with the best stats. But with 30 mil cap, 50k physical attack, they just aren't capping all those lines, like I mentioned, right? Pathfinders this is their wheelhouse. They're really freaking good. In some situations, they may be the aggro. If everything lined up perfectly, if they, even with all the same, 30 mil cap, 50k physical attack, they may be the aggro. That's how good they are. Like, we just cleared normal Damien on my Demon Slayer, and the Pathfinder was our aggro the entire time. And that matters. Mercedes is not going to be the aggro. And they may steal aggro with their insane burst. And I've learned that swap of aggro is not fun. It's just not fun. It's just a pain. So when you have consistent damage from a Pathfinder, and they have bubble, their support is bubble, which has value. Mercedes, just DPS. If they're not doing DPS, they're not doing anything. But I just think that when it comes down to it, I just think of Frenchie's, and I just think of how much damage he did. And I just still think that burst is really hard to replicate. And when you're coming down to trying to clear a boss in the last 90 seconds, in the 9 minutes plus, having that Mercedes burst, 1 minute burst at the end, is just too much. Like, I dropped them far. Like, having them at rank number 11 is far. And especially when you see some of these other classes, this is rank 12. When you see some of these other classes that I got ahead of them, like, you're going to have complaints for sure. People are going to lose their shit that I have a Buccaneer in front of a Mercedes. But Buccaneers are very, very good. In this range especially, their damage is pretty equivalent to Pathfinders, I would say, like how they do their damage. They got pretty good short burst that comes up pretty frequently. Their mobility is insane. Like, it's arguably the best mobility in the game. I love them on altars because they can be the first ones to get there and start that cleanse, that gauge. And then it's TL. TL is just huge, right? And then, like, if you don't have, like, it's an extra phantom. If you have a phantom in your team, you can have the phantom take other support stuff, right? It's just the utility. Speed infusion. Again, huge. It matters. And when it comes down to differentiating between these classes within this range, like their damage may not be better than all of these classes in this quote unquote tier, but just having time leap, like if you can have it at the beginning with your burst and 4 minutes and 7 minutes or whatever, 3 times a run for extra reses, for extra bursts, for extra cooldown resets, the value is just too hard to ignore. And it's just nitpicking, right? It's just preference. And I've seen Buccaneers hold aggro, keep DPS, do consistent damage, be very good aggros. And so I have no complaints with their damage. I think their damage is plenty good enough to justify trying to convince myself that this is the right pick, choosing them in front of all these great classes. But look at those classes. Like, if anyone were to ask me, what's a good class? All of these are not good classes. They're great classes to play. They're fun classes. They're with funding and with gameplay. I think they're really, really good. But that's the depth of the amount of classes there are. Like, I think the top 10 is just, this was tough. It was honestly very tough to even go choose my number 1 class, let alone ranking them in order. Like, tiers is easy. Tiers is easier, right? You don't have to really, you can just say they're all in the same tier. But man, ranking them one by one is tough. But we'll get into the top 10 right after this. Yeah, there's some fire. These classes are insane. All right, top 10. Here we go. Yeah, I think the biggest question is where. The hardest question was, where did I have? Where's my class? Where did it go? Oh, right there. Where did I have Bishop? Right? But first we'll get into these, rounding out the top 10. Number 10, I had Thunderbreaker. Again, better version of Buccaneer. Pretty good mobility. Survivability isn't great, but their lines, after remaster, their lines, their burst, their time leap, their mobility is very good. They have the 30-second iframe with their hyper, their 170 hyper. Yeah, it's just a great toolkit. Wait, do Thunderbreakers have time leap? Am I trolling? I don't think they have time leap. I'm still keeping them here. I think I have to remaster. Whether they have time leap or not, I'm sticking with it. I think that they are very, very good. Their damage and burst is good. In this cap range, in this attack range, question myself if they have time leap. I'm gonna have to look back and freaking rechange everything. But I think they're very good. Like, they have lines, they have burst, they have mobility. They're in a good spot. Dawn Warriors, just better. Dawn Warriors are better. Arguably, I talked to a Dawn Warrior yesterday about, he's Asia, 47 mil cap, best gear you can have, right? And I asked him, how would he rank him compared to Warriors? He says, better than, I was like, are they better than Heroes? Are they better than DKs? He's like, yep, for sure. Right behind Paladins. But Dawn Warriors are very, very good, in a good spot. They cap all their lines now, which is nice. They don't have all those small clone lines. They got with the remaster, their damage is just better. The skill percentages are higher. They're going to do more damage. And so that is why I got them in top 10 easily, in my opinion. And then this is where it gets a little bit maybe biased, in my opinion, but I still got these classes. And this is where I got Bishop. I got Bishop just outside the top 5. But I just kept coming down to it. Shadowers are insane. I think they are the second best thief in the game. Arguably the best DPS thief in the game. And their toolkit's nice. Like, they have a teleport. They have pretty good iframe. Not the greatest. They don't have self-healing or anything like that. But they just have good lines. You're going to cap all their lines. They have mobility, teleports, iframes, mini iframes to survive things, to get around the map. And I just love their toolkit. And their damage is good. It's consistent. If they're not, I mean, the biggest issue is if they're bugged or not. That's always been the issue with Shadowers. But if they're clean, they're fixed, they are insane. Easily a top 10, one of the best DPS classes in the game. Like, again, Shadowers could be the aggro. If everyone is around the same gear, Shadowers can be the aggro, the tank, and they're well suited to do that and hold aggro. And I think that is just a good quality to have. Demon Slayers, just better. People don't understand how good Demon Slayers are. I just cleared, again, normal Damien on my Demon Slayer, 20.3 mil cap. I was first page. I did 40. I was like 44, maybe 42 build DPM, 20 mil cap, no shade. And the insane thing is I didn't take blink because we can fly and glide, and we have such short iframes. We can survive dive. We can rotate through our iframes. We can even block tornadoes. And the best part about it is they have arguably the best support healing skill in the game. And that is their Leech Aura. And that is 25% healing. 25% HP healing. The entire party for every 5 seconds as long as a Demon Slayer is attacking. Demon Slayers already have passive healing as it is because they're a demon and they're insane. So they're not going to die. They're going to be at 100% HP. They're going to be tanky, and they're going to be healing the entire party. So like one of the biggest things that helped us was when people were dealing with orbs and altars, Demon Slayers were actually healing the team on top of a bishop with Fountain, but that extra support healing at hard Damien level and at Lucid, trying to survive the Crescent, the sickle skills, things like that. It's such an underrated skill, and it's actually bugged right now where the healing doesn't show up on the healing charts, but I'm telling you, they are doing, I confirmed this with Rubido, they are healing and they are saving lives, and their damage is obviously insane, very good, consistent, great aggros at this level. 30 mil cap, they may not cap all their lines, but I don't think it's going to matter. Like, their damage is easy to come by, a lot of passive lines. They got wide range of their attacks. Yeah, and they have a teleport again, so like they have their own blink skill that has no cooldown. So if there are orbs on one side, they can blink over, teleport right on top of the boss. Their mobility is very good. And so, yeah, their toolkit is insane, damage-wise, support-wise. Yeah, it's easily top 10 class, one of the best DPS classes in the game. And then Bishop. Got the Bishop. This was just such a hard... It's just so hard to where to put Bishop. Like, you could... Like, if you said Bishop was, obviously, if it's just straight DPS, they'd be at the bottom, right? No questions asked. And I was even thinking of scenarios, like if you had 2 bishops at 30 mil cap, they could still do pretty decent damage. And then you would have multi-res, you would have benedictions forever, right? So you would never get stunned. You could have fountains, you could support the team, you could heal, you could have, shells, Heaven's Door, like Peacemaker could be healing the entire team as well. It's just so much value. Advanced Blessing is a great party buff. Again, bishops DPS is not great. I'm actually surprised that they didn't get rebalanced damage wise. But when I was doing this ranking, every single class I was taking bishop over this class and this class and this class. Like, great DPS classes, I was taking the bishop over them because of how much value they provide. And I think I forget how useful bishop is, because teams are clearing normal Damien without bishops, right? Because they have these other classes these other great classes to offset it. But at the highest level, you need a bishop. Those Heaven's Doors are so underrated. Like, just extra lives throughout the fight add up. Gives you that extra confidence to do damage. Bishops are insane. If they ever get damage, which I think they will V4 apparently, and in KMSM and PC, I think they're good DPSers as well. Look out. Like, just look out. I think I got Shade with the rebalance. And then Rounding out the top 5, Shade and Lumi. Shades, 17 to 18k lines, going to be insane. They have crit res, split, huge. Their damage is easy. They have a great backstep. They teleport. Knuckle is on altars, and he's insane. Usually the first one to get there. They have so much tools to survive. Self-healing. They have iframes for Freud. They have their shielding ward that immunes attacks like half the time. Toolkit, insane. Party buffs, insane. Split is such a great skill. No surprise that Shades, even before this rebalance, would probably be a top 10 class, but after this rebalance, with their damage, which was the one thing holding them back, they're top 5 for sure. Lumi, I talked about aggros with Shadowers, Pathfinders, Buccaneers. They could be aggros. Lumis, if you have a Lumi, a good Lumi, aggro. Set it, forget it. Their line count is just insane. At this level, at this 30 mil cap, just disgusting class. That's all I have to say. They're going to be your aggro. And then rounding up the top 3. This is the order I got it. And again, people don't realize how good Sia is. Or maybe they're starting to realize how good Sia is. Obviously, people know Paladins, Phantoms. We're not going to talk about it. They've been number 1 and 2 in my rankings, class rankings, forever. But now that I play with the Sia, now that I see more Sia, now that I talk to more Sias, they are just, it's a mobile exclusive class for a reason. It has to be the best class. Fun fact, the Dawn Warrior I talked to yesterday, I asked him who was the best DPSer, who beats him in DPS. Sia. He said Sia, full Absol, 28k covert, obviously doing insane in Guild Dungeon. Sia, Paladin, in Guild Honor Battle, Guild Dungeon, 1v1, same cap, same stats. Sia's being a Paladin. 60-second burst in Guild Dungeon. Facts. So they have the burst. They have the DPS. They have the lines. Their lines are 18, almost 19,000. The fact that they can be the best DPS, and then they can be the best support class in the game, right? Their Hourglass skill is the best support skill in the game. It saves lives. You've watched my content. My Damien saves dozens of lives without even going unnoticed. It's better than Heaven's Door. It's better than Sankro. It's better than Demon Slayer's Leeching Aura. Everything, right? Literally saves lives. You don't even get tombed. You don't even see it. It goes unnoticed. And it's forever, continuous, if you wanted to. So they could be the best support class in the game, the best DPS class in the game, and even if they're a mixture and balance of the two, they're still very, very good, right? And a good high skill cap Sia that knows what he's doing, knows how to play his class, knows how to balance between DPS and support, or even it's just full support, even just full DPS, best class in the game. 30 mil cap, they're going to cap all those lines easily. And if there's one class that I'm taking, but if everything were the same, honestly, if it was 20 mil cap Sia, I'm taking the Sia, right? There's no class that compares to what they can do in any sort of situation. And that is what I love about these top classes, right? They can provide so much value in so many different ways than just DPS, right? Phantoms are literally Sankro from Paladins, Shell, Benediction, heal better than Bishop. No, they don't have Benediction. Shell, heal better than Bishops. They can take res, they can take time leap like a Buccaneer, they can take meditation, they can take monkey magic, they can take so many skills, the best skills from all the best classes. Yeah, Phantom's better than Paladins without a doubt. Also, Paladins aren't going to cap all their lines at this stat, so yeah, this is my ranking with those parameters. Level 240, 50k attack, 30 mil cap, 210k HP for Hard Damien and Lucid in April 2024, the current meta, after this rebalance. I want to hear your thoughts. I think Obviously, I think my list is not perfect by any means. I think that I have my understanding of some of these classes, especially the lower tier classes, is general. The bare minimum to understand. I don't know their full toolkits. So I would love to know if you play any of these classes and think that they're better than I represented them. Let me know, because um, I just need to know. People need to know. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest takeaway is how many good classes there are. I got in the 20s to 30s range 3 iconic DPS thieves. Crazy, right? Like some people could have bishops in the 20s, 30s. I wouldn't argue with them, right? But it's just I value certain things more than DPS support, and I think that is the name of the game. The more you can do, the more you have in your toolkit, the more value you're going to provide to your teams, to endgame bossing, to DPS, right? If you can save lives, or if you can stay alive, it's huge, right? If you can do consistent DPS, how easy your DPS comes, huge. Love to hear your comments, love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Sorry for being a day late on this. Had to come out with this banger. Had to let you guys know about this. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.